All right, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. I hope everyone can hear me okay. Um, so thank you all for joining us for our last IET speaker series of the semester. We will continue these in the spring semester, but this is going to be the last one for this year because we know that once you come back from Thanksgiving, it is exam time. And so no need to carry it on any further. But we thank you for joining us tonight. And tonight we are going to be focusing on cloud computing. And we have with us two AWS solutions architects, Dolica Gopassetti and Christian Ramirez. And so we're going to go ahead and jump in and get started. All right. Let's get started. So want to jump into introduction. So first we have Delica Gopassetti, who is a solutions architect at Amazon Web Services in the public sector team and works specifically with customers in higher education. She helps them achieve their business objectives by hosting their mission critical applications in the AWS cloud. Dolica pursued her Bachelor's of Science in Information Technology at George Mason University near Washington, D.C., and is an activist for the tech community as well as a cloud enthusiast. Alongside this, she will be launching her podcast where she will unfold stories of individuals who have turned their passion into their career. So Dolica, if you give us a little wave there, I can't wait for you to release your podcast so we can all tune in and listen.
Thank you.
Mhm. All right, next up we have Christian Ramirez, who's also a solutions architect at AWS. He was recently hired through the TechU program. Christian holds a BS degree in mathematics and economics from UCLA and an MS in management and leadership from Pepperdine University. Prior to joining AWS, Christian was a high school math technology teacher, then transitioned to a role as a data solutions analyst for a Los Angeles-based charter management organization. Christian made the career switch after completing a cloud computing certificate at East Los Angeles College, where he gained the fundamental knowledge to attain an AWS Solutions Architect Associate certification and pursue a career in cloud computing. Christian enjoys tinkering with his many Raspberry Pi single board computers and is an avid road cyclist and mountain biker. So give us a wave, Christian. We are glad to have you. Fun fact, I was also a teacher before this, so yay. All right, so we are going to jump into some Q&A. All right, I'm gonna pin our videos so that they always see us on the screen. And pin, and I'll pin myself since I'll be talking as well. All right, so let's jump right into it. So before we get into kind of some of the nitty gritty of talking about cloud and all of those things, for both of you, kind of share a little bit of your story and kind of what led you into a career in cloud computing. So Dolica, if you want to start, and then Christian, you jump in.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Brittany, for the introduction, and to everyone for joining us this evening. Of the many things you could be doing, you joined us, so we really appreciate your time and hope you learned something from today's session. So a little bit about my background. So I actually went to George Mason University. And I majored in IT, as Brittany introduced. And during my IT career, or IT student career, I noticed that, you know, with an IT degree, there's just like so many paths you can take, and it's pretty much endless. Like you can go into development, you can go into testing, you can go into data science, networking, security, just whatnot. But I wanted to like pick a path that was more unique, but also demanding, because I wanted it to be in a career or in a role that would be demanding, that would sustain, and kind of overall have some sort of security, of course. So during that time, I attended a career fair and I learned about cloud computing, and that the word itself, like cloud computing, just felt really new to me. And at that time I had no knowledge. So when I was, and I did a little bit of research. And so during my research, I found out that there are these certifications you can take, and that kind of basically provides some sort of a credential that you are kind of an expert in that space, and getting a job would be easier. So I looked and I found out that at least at that time, AWS was leading. It still is. And I thought, okay, so let me try for the certification. So I went for the associate solutions architect certification. And it was, since it was my first ever certification, it was a very challenging one, but also a very interesting one. So the entire journey of the process of learning about it, the process of just becoming aware of how much cloud can do was really, really exciting, because it wasn't a topic like you learn a subject in school. It was more so very close to something you can do in the real world. So that's what fascinated me, because there was that real world connection. So after a couple months of hard work, studying and all of that, I became certified. And I feel like a lot of opportunities opened up for me, just like, my research said about the certification. And soon I got an internship during my last semester of college at AWS. So I started off as a solutions architect intern at AWS. And by the end of the internship, I was extended and offered to come back full time upon graduation. And since about a year and a half, I've been at AWS and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. So it's definitely a good space to be in for me.
Great, Delica. So for me, I pretty much have like a non-traditional route to getting into the cloud. So for me, when I was an undergrad back in 2010, I actually studied math and economics with the hopes of getting into a career in finance. But then whenever I had my internship, I absolutely hated it and wanted to really change something. So that's why I pursued education, because I did minor in education and I really enjoyed tutoring on my time off, and just really liked working with students. So just going within that, I still always had just a passion for technology, and that's why I eventually became a technology and math teacher. Just being able to blend the two. Throughout the time, it's like I did gain a role as a data solutions analyst, where I was working with very cool projects within the district for being able to analyze student data. And within this, it's like I really just wanted to learn a lot more within like education and within computer science and things like this. And I wanted to actually go back to school to get my master's degree in computer science, but I just couldn't justify the price at the time. And I just had too many factors going on that just didn't allow me to be able to pursue this master's degree. So instead, I enrolled in my local community college in East LA, where they had a cloud computing program, and actually didn't come in with the intention of making a big career change. One of the things that I just wanted to do was just kind of like learn some cloud computing concepts and see if I would be able to apply it within my role. But the professor that was teaching the class, it's like he was just so engaging, and he was just able to open up this entire world to me. And I caught what I call the cloud computing bug. So from there, it's like, I just really just started taking like a deep dive towards like learning everything about Linux, learning everything about like cloud computing specifically within AWS. And then I just started buying Raspberry Pis, and my wife did not like that I just had Raspberry Pis all over the house, because I have more than 10 of them. But I just really just took a deep dive into learning all these different things, and I started doing my own personal projects. And through this program at my local community college, they had some sort of partnership with AWS, where eventually I went through an interviewing workshop with I believe she was a recruiter from AWS. And from that, it's like the hopes were just to like get us within the cloud field, not necessarily AWS. Like I could have been working for a partner, different things like that. But just going through that program, she introduced me to the TechU program, which allowed me to be able to get into AWS, and they're providing me pretty much 6 months of training, on the job training, and then transition into the solutions architect role. And that's where I am now.
Different journeys, but still very cool. And for those of you who are not in IT in cloud. Christian, can you just briefly describe for the folks on the call who might be new to cloud and IT what a Raspberry Pi is?
Yeah, so Raspberry Pi is, I don't have one right next to me, but it's like just like a little single board computer. So pretty much you would be able to run Linux on it, and they're just like these little, about this big computers that you could pretty much have it run a certain project. So for me, I've pretty much made like a home surveillance system using Raspberry Pis and a network attached storage, and then was able to like integrate it with the cloud with some of the fun projects. You know, with this, there's just so many projects that you could engage with.
Yeah, so many cool projects that I've seen students do. Thank you both for sharing a little bit of kind of your background and how you ended up where you are today. So for our students who are on the call, what are some skills that students need to be successful in a career in cloud computing? And we'll start with you first this time, Christian.
Yeah. So, you know, in my time with Amazon, you know, we have leadership principles, and one of them, it's learn and be curious. I feel it's like one of the main skills that you really need to be successful within cloud computing is just being able to know what you don't know, and then be able to like take a deep dive into being able to learn new concepts. You know, there's just so many ways that you could be able to learn new things, and it's impossible to just know everything really from the start. So it's just being able to understand new concepts and just be very willing to learn these things. And then, you know, also within a career in the cloud computing, I feel like there should be an emphasis on some of the soft skills, like communication, you know, both written and oral, and then good presentation skills with customers, things like that.
Yeah, never underestimate those transferable soft skills. Dolica, what about you? What are some skills that you would say students need to be successful in cloud?
Yeah, I think I 100% agree with what Christian said. That's exactly what was running in my mind personally. I think one thing that has helped me throughout is that, you know, in my IT career, what I learned was completely different in the classroom, and compare that to what I'm doing today. And the only thing that got me this far was probably just being curious to learn, being curious enough to figure out things, not being afraid to ask questions. I think especially in a cloud career that's so demanding, but also very fast paced, because there's just so much newness all the time. Like, we know tomorrow we go to work and there's a new service available, and we have to learn it and to make sure that we are, you know, ramped up in that area so we can best convey about that service to our customers. The only thing that'll allow is for us to be agile and for us to be open-minded to learn new things. If we want to be in a comfort zone, I don't think that's how cloud works, because everything is just so new. Innovation is just so fast here. You're constantly on your toes. But in addition to just being able to learn technology and being like a technology enthusiast, a couple other skills that are required are like Christian said, communication, especially in a cloud career where half of the time you're definitely, well, not half, but at least like a little bit of your time you are building, but you're also communicating and conveying what you have learned to other people. It may be just your internal peers, like people within your team or within your organization, or it might also be end customers who know nothing about technology, and you have to convey that in a way that they can understand. So meaning you being able to not use too much technical lingo, but use words and language that allows the end person, you know, the other person on the other side to understand. So I think just being able to like communicate things in a more casual manner, but also keep it professional. So those are some things. And lastly, I think just being able to understand that you are not going to learn everything in one sitting, or you're not going to learn everything in just a couple of days for a certification. Definitely certifications are a value add, but just getting a certification and saying, okay, I'm certified, now I can go ahead and go do my job is kind of not the way. It's baby steps, literally. I think doing maybe even 45 minutes a day of just like learning something is going to add up and is going to contribute to like more bigger results in the future. So just being aware of that and taking, small steps is going to do a lot of good things.
Great advice from both of you. And you spoke about being agile and adapting to the very fast pace, not just in cloud, but in tech in general. And so the next question that we had, and actually someone asked it in the chat, is what does a typical day as a solutions architect look like for you? So Dolica, do you want to continue? And then Christian, you jump in?
Yeah, sure. So honestly, like I said, cloud is very agile and our day differs every single day, especially mine. I can't really speak to Christian, but for me, my day might be super busy today and tomorrow it might be pretty light. So I think it's not the same every day. And I think that's what's exciting and gratifying at the same time, because one day you're solving so many challenging problems. And by problems, I don't mean like math problems, but I mean like your customers' problems. Your customers might come to you saying, hey, like just a simple example, hey, I want to deploy this application on the cloud. And you will provide them an architecture, you'll provide them best practices, you'll provide them, hey, these are the services you can use to best solve your problem. And you're going to have like 3 or 4 customers you're going to solve it. You're going to be like, wow, I did a lot today. I solved a lot of problems. So gratifying. And the next day you might only have 1 or 2 things, but that doesn't mean that that's your job. Other than solving our customers' problems, other things we do is make sure that we're developing our skills, which is extremely important because of the fast-paced innovation and technology that's happening. So we spend almost, I think, 20% of our time, almost like 4 hours a week, just preparing ourselves and like learning new skills, new services, new technologies. And other than that, we also help build internal tools. So let's say that within our own team, there's something missing. Maybe doing this X thing will help speed up our day-to-day activities. Building something for our team, writing blogs for our customers. Like if you type in AWS blogs, those blogs are written by solutions architects and other Amazonians, just like me and Christian. So these are just a couple of examples, but I think my favorite thing of like my favorite part of the day is probably working with customers, but also writing blogs, coming up with projects, coming up with solutions, because we're not limited in our job. We have so much flexibility other than working with our customers. And for me, my best part is just being able to solve any problem. Like I can just think of a problem that maybe I'm facing in my personal life and say, hey, I think this would be a good solution, pitch it, get some feedback, and then maybe even make it a service, So I think that's something that Amazon really supports, and I'm pretty sure any company does. So I think that's a typical day.
Yeah, great. So my day looks very different than Dolica's, since right now I am currently in what's called the residency stage of TechU, which is more on the job training. So pretty much within this, most of my time is just dedicated towards like learning and developing new concepts. And AWS really reiterates the importance of like being able to learn these things so I can bring value to the customer. Once I start working with customers directly. One of the things that's very stressed in this, it's just having complete ownership of your time. So it's like, when you're working on something, it's like, you really have to own it. There's nobody ever really watching over your back, making sure that you're doing something. There's no micromanagement of that sort. They want you to take complete ownership and be able to develop your skills that way. But currently right now in my residency stage, I do attend like a lot of webinars. I do attend a lot of trainings. And then when I'm not engaging in direct learning, it's like I read through white papers, and then I also develop a lot of like cool projects that are work for proof of concepts. And it's just a very fun and engaging environment. For me, I'm all about just being able to see it's like what is at the cutting edge, and they provide me with that opportunity.
I love the emphasis on professional development and just the continuous learning and continually being curious, which is a life skill, honestly. So for our students who are trying to gain experience in the field, because several of them are new to cloud or new to IT in general, or they might be switching from a different field. Have you worked on, and Christian, you've talked about this, personal projects related to cloud computing that you use maybe on your resume or portfolio to show your experience? And what are some examples of those projects that students could do to kind of show that they have the skills? Christian, if you want to start.
Yeah, so for me, I did engage like in a lot of just like personal projects. And this was actually even before I started interviewing with like Amazon Web Services, or even before like I thought about making that career change from data analytics towards like computer science, towards cloud computing. One of the things that I always just like doing was just like trying to see, it's like, I have a certain problem, or there's like something that I want to do, but there's like no way to do it right now. As I mentioned, one of the things that I really love doing, it's I love cycling, hiking, and running. And one of the things that I use often, it's like my Garmin watch. So it's like I see that they use like GPS, and it's like I just wanted to see, it's like, what can I do with that data? Like, is there a way that I could kind of create my own GPS mapping and things like that? So that just kind of let me down like a rabbit hole of like learning all these different things, serverless computing, and being able to work with like GPS coordinates to draw a map and all these different things. And I made it open source where I had it on my GitHub. And then when it came time for me to write up my resume and cater it to the position itself, in some of the feedback that I received from other Amazonians was like that they really appreciated the amount of like, for me, I had a whole section for personal projects and conferences that I attended, and they saw that as like being just like that I really emphasize the learn and be curious leadership principle that Amazon has. So having some sort of like passion project that it's like, you could be working on it till like 1 a.m. even though there's no midnight and there's no deadline besides the ones that you're making for yourself are really great. Yeah, and from my experience, it's like, I was working in an environment where everything was pretty much on-prem, which is kind of like the old school way of doing things. So it's like there was no way that I could kind of gain like professional experience with like deploying cloud infrastructure, since my employer wasn't using any cloud provider. So it's like I just had to try to find ways to be able to take on projects that would translate into cloud computing. Like I really started learning more Python, database management, Docker containers, and different things like that.
Dolica?
Yeah, I think for me, some of the best projects that I think I felt to be very helpful, but also realized what I could have done differently after joining as a solution architect. So I'll give both perspectives. So a couple of things that I did before joining AWS was building just a simple website. And that website can consist your resume. So you can literally have an about page, your experience, things you have done, like in terms of your career, or just, outside of your career, like what do you do for fun? Because that speaks a lot, and it kind of shows some of the skills you've developed, for example, like coding. And even if you don't know, there's plenty of templates that already have like this pre-built code, and you just have to fill in a little bit of information and you have your website ready. So you could do that and deploy it on AWS. And all of this is on YouTube, on Google, on blogs, and several pages to like provide you the step-by-step. So it's not something that I'm telling you to just go figure out, but it's all out there, and you can just follow the steps and deploy it on AWS. You can use multiple services, you can just type in 3-tier web app, for example, on Google and just follow the steps and you'll have that ready. So that's just a very simple project that you can use. If you want to be really, really into AWS and show that you've gone out of your way, the best way is to go to AWS blogs. And this is something that I didn't do, which I wish I did, because it would be a value add on my resume, or it would have been a value add on my resume, is when you go through AWS blogs, like if you go type in AWS blogs on Google, you will find blogs written by solutions architects or other Amazonians on topics that customers are looking for. So it might have a specific use case, and that use case will be very specific. So it'll be a very specific, so maybe like, how can you use a pre-built model to analyze videos, for example? And it might walk you through Amazon Recognition, which is our service, our managed service, and you can use some of the APIs and perform that analysis. So just like doing some of these blogs, walking through some of these blogs, you'll learn what steps are entailed to solve a specific problem. And honestly, that's sometimes our day-to-day. Sometimes when we have a customer that's asking, I want to do X, sometimes we go to blogs and see if there's a solution already, and we might go through it ourselves or just share that blog with our customer. So I think apart from doing simple challenging problems like the ones you would during your certification preparation, going through AWS blogs is going to be a great value add.
All right, thank you both. So this next question kind of piggybacks off of this concept of preparing yourself, getting yourself ready to enter into the world of applying for jobs and learning things to get you ready. So what is one tip for students on preparing to be successful in a technical interview? Because we know those are very different from your standard interview for any other job. Christian, do you want to start? Mute it.
Sorry. So main tip would just be prepare. So, I've been in many positions. It's like before landing at AWS, it's like I've interviewed for many other positions and gotten the jobs, things like this, but those nothing like the AWS interview really. So it's like, just really do your research. So within, like, if you wanted to specifically apply for Amazon, you would have to really read up on the leadership principles. And then there's whole entire YouTube channels, not just like videos, but like there's like a whole channel on where it's like this person, it's like her entire channel is just to help you be able to navigate the interview process. So I could imagine, like, if you wanted to go to Google, Facebook, or any of the other big tech companies, there's probably like a little bit there's probably like specific content that you could research there, but just making sure that you prepare. If you didn't prepare for an interview and it's like maybe like a week away, it's like I would see if you could postpone it, because like even just like for the interview that I did to be able to land this job, I prepped almost like a month in advance, and you pretty much have to be on your toes for anything. It's like anything that you put on your resume is fair game. So like if you say that you know Java, but all it is, it's hello world, don't put it. If you put that you're proficient in Python, it's like be ready for them to just like ask you like Python questions and just be able to create something on the spot too. So those would probably be my tips. Oh, and then just one more thing before I forget. This would pretty much apply in general for almost like any position within a tech company, but it's called the STAR method, which means situation, task, action, and result. So you want to be able to make your stories like that you provide answers to around the STAR method. So you can find a lot of resources online on how to be able to cater your answers based on the STAR method. And again, there's also whole YouTubers that make content just for the STAR method.
Yes, I'm giggling throughout this whole thing because I've coached many students who like, well, they asked me about this and I couldn't answer. And I'm like, well, why'd you put it on your resume? if you did? So yes, I agree with everything you said. And the STAR method, gotta have those STAR stories, like 10 to 15, like prepare examples because they are gonna drill you on those questions. Yeah. So Dolica, you share what you have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I 100% agree with what Christian said. You know, if what happens is when you put something on your resume, you're basically allowing the interviewer to ask you questions on it. So you're kind of digging your own hole. So what's best is even on your resume, use the STAR method, because that it like, but brief it up. Don't like put the whole story in like a couple paragraphs, but just like a couple of lines, so that when you are actually interviewing, and let's say that it's online or even in person, and you're able to take your resume with you, you can at least look on your paper and just kind of, you know, speak to it, so that you don't actually forget. I think some interview tips is really researching about the company, right? So for example, Amazon, I'm going to speak to Amazon because I'm currently here, and that I think their interview process is pretty thorough and rigorous. So if you are interviewing for AWS or Amazon, first, the most important thing they're going to ask you, or they're going to expect, is that you are aware of the leadership principles. And leadership principles are kind of the, I guess, the company's culture, right? It's any company, like every company is going to have some culture. So just being aware of that. And most of the questions are going to come from that culture, because the purpose of the interview is to make sure that the candidate is they can fit into the culture. So for example, for Amazon, the first leadership principle is customer obsession. And they're very, very well going to ask you questions around that. And the question is not going to be like, tell me about a time you were customer obsessed, but more so around, okay, tell me about a time where you worked on behalf of a customer, even when you had a lot of pushbacks or something like that, you know? So it's just basically testing you and asking you for times in your career where you have worked on behalf of someone or something, and just for all leadership principles. So if you are interviewing for Amazon, what I would do is go through each of the leadership principles and come up with at least like 3 or 4 scenarios, different scenarios on the times you have showcased that. So when you do that, and if you have a question surrounding that leadership principle, you can immediately pull that scenario and speak to it in using the STAR method. So STAR method is situation, task, action, result. What that means is you have to basically talk about what happened or what you did using these things, so it sounds like a story. So I can give you an example. So maybe this question is something like, okay, tell me about a time where you showed improvement. And I can talk about the situation. So I can probably say something like, during my very first internship, I was trying to learn X skill, and I realized that there were many hurdles because I did not have the experience. So I spoke to my manager, and he or she provided me to learn X, Y, and Z technologies. And so that's the task that your manager gave. And so your action would be, so what I did was I set up a schedule so that I could allocate some time between my work at my internship to learn these specific technologies so I can improve. Finally, so your result now, you're going to say, doing all of these allowed me to improve my performance at my internship, thus getting a full-time offer. Just something really simple. So that's just an example of you showcasing an improvement instead of just saying, oh yeah, I just faced, I had a situation where I didn't know something, and I just followed my manager's advice and I got a full-time. So instead of just saying that, making it sound like a story, really honing in on the steps you took to get there is really important. And STAR method just allows you to do that because you have to be very specific in each of the steps. So that's just an example. And other than that, I think interviewing, just being confident, being slow. There was a time for my Amazon interview where I was asked a question and I couldn't immediately think of an answer. So I was just like, can I get a minute? And because the important thing is to not just say something just to say it, but to say something that you really know. Because one other thing that Amazon really cares is for you to say things like you mean it. You shouldn't just say it and be like, well, actually, this is what I mean. Because that's just like, once you said it, either you lost the trust or you earned the trust. So just wait, formulate what you want to say, and then say it. And I think that's a lot better than just saying, just like speaking out loud. So when you take 2 minutes, you just earn trust. And plus, when you say it, it just sounds more concise. So I think those are some things that I did and it worked out.
Great advice from both of you, and great example, Dolica, of how to use the STAR method effectively. And as Christian and Dolica said, there are so many resources about the STAR method. There's also other methods that you can use that are abbreviated forms of the STAR method, like the parade method. There's the XYZ method you can use to write for your resume. So do your research on different formulas because there are tons out there and they're all equally effective. Go ahead.
Oh, I just want to say something real quick before I forget. Sorry, excuse me. So Andrea, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right, but she asked a question. I completely forgot I was going to speak to it, but let me just answer it real quick. So you asked about schedule, like how the SA job is. Is it flexible? Is it 9 to 5? Are there remote working opportunities? So for sure, there are remote working opportunities. Right now, I think especially after COVID, a lot of companies have realized that a lot of jobs can be done remotely, but specifically at AWS, as we're customer obsessed, there is remote opportunities where you can do a lot of things from home, but customer presence is also important. So what that means is the role itself for solutions architects, it requires for us to travel up to 30% a year. So what that means is being on site with our customers, traveling to where our customers are, helping them with, presentations, give presentations, present content, that kind of stuff. So there is going to be traveling, but it's not like, it's next to your house or something like that. Sometimes you're going to have to travel across the US. Like I have gone to Vegas, I've gone to Pennsylvania, I've gone to Seattle, like Texas. So they're fun places, new places, and there's always something going on. So I think if you like to travel, solutions architect is definitely a role that will be fun because at least before COVID, there was travel, but at least like now there's not much travel. But I think once everything goes back to normal, who knows when that'll be, but I think slowly the traveling will be back. Like during COVID, I think I traveled once. It was for a team offsite. And there's actually twice for a team offsite and also for a public sector summit. So that's gonna be there. But as far as like the main job goes, majority of it can be done remotely. There is flexibility. You are the owner of your schedule. So you basically tell your account manager or whoever you're working with saying, hey, I'm available to meet with you 10 to 3, for example, but obviously customers come first, so you have to be a little flexible, but your expectation is definitely 9 to 5. Nobody expects you to work after 5 or before 8, honestly. So.
All right. Moving on to, we're kind of getting to the end of our list of questions. So for our people who are in the audience, if you are thinking of questions to ask, feel free to drop them in the chat because we're getting closer to the open Q&A portion. But for Dolica and Christian, what is something you wish you would have known before starting a career in cloud computing? Christian, you want to go first, and then Dolica will jump to you.
Yeah, so I feel for me, what I wish I would have known before starting cloud computing, it's like that a computer science degree is not required. So for me, I kind of came in a little bit like thinking it's like, I kind of had like imposter syndrome, where it's like, because I didn't get my master's in computer science or even my bachelor's. And for me, I'm a proud alumni of the University of YouTube. So it's like everything it's like I've just kind of been able to learn was like on my own. So just knowing that there really isn't like a mold for what a solutions architect looks like. I think that would have alleviated some nerves like in the beginning when I first started. Because for me, it's like, oh, I already have a stable career as a data analyst. Maybe I might go down the data science path a little bit more. And I was a little bit I was a little scared to make this transition, since it was a career switch for me. But no regrets. I truly appreciate being at AWS and knowing that a computer science degree is not really required for this. I actually have some, like my manager, it's like he studied Soviet studies like back in the 80s, and he ended up being like a chief technology officer at some other company before he came to AWS. So there's really no mold for what somebody in technology looks like and their educational background.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, I have seen people at Amazon with degrees in science, astronomy, geology, pretty much non-technical backgrounds, and extremely successful. They're in top positions, top tech positions, as well as have gone up the ladder to VP and vice president and management positions as well. So I think definitely thinking that if your degree is what's going to drive your career is absolutely wrong, because that's not the case in IT. I know so many people who didn't even have like an actual degree, who just probably finished high school and did community college and came straight into AWS. So I think the one important skill or important thing to have is probably like a shift in mindset and thinking that your skills, your technical skills, your ability to talk about technology, learn technology, and convey that back is pretty good. That's enough to start and to get your foot into the door. And I think what I want to also say kind of ties into Kalani's question, which is how can you really get your way into the door and how can you earn that credibility? And the way is through certifications, I think, especially because there is no cloud computing degree. I mean, they're definitely coming. There are a lot of universities and community colleges that are offering cloud computing certifications, but if you are not currently enrolled, don't think you're limited or don't think you're missing out, because you can really just get a certification. There are plenty of certifications that AWS offers, especially like entry level, like beginner level certifications. I personally would recommend cloud computing if you have zero knowledge, but if you think you can handle a little bit of challenge, then just go for the solutions architect associate level certification, either or even both. Getting those two certifications will give a lot of clarity on what is cloud, what you can do with cloud, and just there's so many things, right? So definitely, if you want to get your foot into the door, starting out through a certification, and then putting yourself out there, like on LinkedIn, networking with people, that's really, really big. You have no idea how much networking can do. Just being able to do that, being able to communicate with people, would even open your door, open many doors for an internship, or even maybe like a full-time. TechU technically is a full-time because you are learning on the role, like on the job, and Christian can speak more about it. And I think Jeremy, Christian can probably take Jeremy's question, but that's pretty much what it is. You learn on the job, you're getting paid to learn, and then basically perform on the job afterwards. So.
All right, and kind of speaking to this continued theme of learning, and something that we talked about recently is about being agile, and how can you be agile in today's world and pivot if you need to. And I think, Dolica, you have a lot to say about this this particular topic. And then Christian, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, being agile, honestly, if you have, it's again, it's just like a mindset shift, right? Like if you want to be successful in a career, or if you have a passion for a specific career path, it's just you being able to research about it, you wanting to learn more about it, and you pursue it. In today's world, where things are rapidly changing and you can pretty much do anything with any degree, like I could be, you know, having like a biology degree and I can become a data scientist like in a month. But the only thing that's helping me do that is my curiosity to learn and to just grow my skills. And I think what I would say is do be agile, right? Like even today, I have this imposter syndrome where I feel like, okay, I'm a solutions architect, but am I missing out on other things? Like there's so many roles out there that are just as technical as solutions architects, maybe even more fun, maybe even more cool, maybe less cool, but I still want to, you know, experience it, like product management, or even like roles like technical trainer. Like it's very close to a teacher, but not in a school setting, but more so in a corporate setting, right? So like there's so many fun roles. And if you want to be agile, I think the perfect time to be agile is actually early career. Not that you cannot be agile when you're like 30 or 40, that's also fine. But what I'm saying is, if you feel you don't want to settle into something, because that's totally my mindset, is like, I want to know about every role before I feel like, okay, I'm comfortable here. Even though you're never going to be comfortable because things are always changing, but at least like in a place you want to be, I think you just have to have the curiosity to learn. And I think I honestly like look up to people who have had major career shifts, like Christian and even Brittany, like coming from a teaching background, teaching math, now, you know, learning technology. That's a huge shift. And the only thing that got them here, I personally think, is like just having that curiosity to learn and to just, you know, grow. So I think just having that mindset is definitely important, and it should always continue in your career.
Yeah, like for me, one of the things I'm just most excited about within the cloud industry, it's just the amount of growth that's just happening, and the amount of like cloud adaptation that's happening from different industries. So it's like within this role, it's like I feel it's like right now I'm at a pivotal stage where it's like, you know, I could go towards like different sectors. I could specialize within specific technologies. Pretty much, you know, AWS is providing me like these wonderful opportunities to be able to like take ownership of my career and be able to steer it in whatever way it's like I feel is the best for me. And you know, I'm just really excited to be like in this sort of environment, because you know, whenever it's like services don't work or something like that, whenever it's like I'm working on something and it's just not working, it's like, and then you persist and it finally comes together, it's just like an amazing feeling. To be able to make that happen, and just working with customers to be able to like develop some new technologies, and just seeing what they would be able to do with this is just like very exciting to me.
Yeah, so just want to say a couple of things real quick. Sorry, Brittany. I see a lot of questions.
It's okay. I was doing the same thing, trying to like.
I see like a lot of questions, or at least like interest for certifications. So I put in the website for the certifications on AWS. I put it again. I put it like 3 times because I want to make sure like you guys see it, because there's several messages coming in. Basically, if you scroll down, I can also share my screen if you prefer that. Maybe I'll just share my screen. That's probably easier.
Yeah, you should be able to share.
Yeah. So here, if you see, under available AWS certifications, foundational, this is kind of like the very, very beginner level certification. So it'll really help you get some clarity on what is cloud, or get some like knowledge on what is cloud, how best practices of cloud, benefits of cloud, that kind of stuff, and a couple of services that AWS specifically offers. And this is a really good one. But if you think that that's too basic for you, no one ever says that, but just saying, you can straight up go for the associate level certifications. So there are 3 associate level certifications: solutions architect, sysops, and developer. I started with this solutions architect. It was a bit of a challenge because at that time I had no idea about what is cloud other than like the definition, but like what AWS is, what are the benefits, like what the networking, the compute aspects of it. But basically, once I actually started the certification, I had to repeat the modules like twice and thrice to really understand. Like initially, right off the bat, it's gonna be really foreign. You're gonna be like, why did I sign up for this? But if you listen to it like twice or thrice, it'll start to make more sense. I'm gonna tell you my personal story. I started off with A Cloud Guru. So A Cloud Guru, they are a training leader, and they offer courses. So under training library, they offer many cloud courses. I started with AWS, and it's basically like a monthly plan, but they basically, once if you pay, you basically get access to the entire platform, but they offer several videos. They do have a British accent. Maybe that's why I had to repeat it a couple of times, but but the content is amazing. Like it's very thorough. The video that they have quizzes at the end of each section. That's really good. But other than that, there's also Udemy. Udemy is also just as amazing. I think I would probably suggest if you're just starting off to go with Udemy. So if you just type in solutions architect or AWS solutions architect, you should be able to see this guy here. I can't say his name, but Stefan Marek, I think he's really good. His
He's really good.
videos, yeah, he's really good. Very thorough again, very detailed, amazing. This guy offers practice tests, but also I think has videos. I think he just started the video. I'm not sure, but he has practice tests. These are really good. I used his, I think, for my professional or my developer. I can't remember, but this practice tests are really good. They are a lot harder than the actual test, which is good because it helps you to prepare. Other than that, there's also one more guy, John.
John Bosco.
Yeah, John Bosco, Ibonzo. Yeah, this guy. Tutorial. So his practice exams are also good. So I think a good place to start is maybe start with his videos, Stefan's videos, take his practice tests, and then John's practice tests. I think you'll be good. The prices right now might look like they're a lot, but just wait till Black Friday. They're gonna drop to like $5.99 or $9.99, and then buy it. So they're really good. And also with Udemy, they have like this 30-day money back. So let's say that you started and you feel like they're not helping you, just you can return them. There's also one more guy, I can't find it, but I can send the links to Brittany, and then she can send them over to you guys. But there's so many people on Udemy, and they are all doing really great stuff. So I think Udemy, A Cloud, and even AWS training, they offer a couple of basics and a couple of pathways, but I personally would definitely start with A Cloud or Udemy. I would probably say Udemy because it's one platform, you have multiple instructors, and then you can also take the practice test there. And plus it's really friendly, especially when you have like a mobile phone or an iPad or something, and stuff like that. But even A Cloud Guru has that too, but it's just more friendly, I feel. I was gonna say one more thing, sorry. Yeah, AWS training also has a practice test. I think it's like $20 or $40. I can't remember. So it's before the test. You have like 10 or 20 questions, I think. It's like a simulation of the actual exam. So you get a feel for the UI and also like the kinds of questions you'll ask. A couple of them do repeat. So I would probably, like, if you really, really want to pass, I would suggest paying $20, $40, I think it's $20.
It's $20.
Is it? Yeah. So yeah, paying $20 and you can have a couple 10 question test and just get some familiarity. So those are some things. It was a lot, but I'll put in the links in the chat.
Okay, and while she's dropping links in the chat, we're gonna kind of ask our final question and then give some more time for questions from the audience. So this is just very general, final career tips, advice, parting words, anything you want to share. Christian, we'll start with you and then we'll go to you, Dolica.
Yeah, so, just some good career tips would just be, it's like, take ownership of your learning. So, like when I was an undergrad, I did take a C++ programming class, and it was pretty much taught on a chalkboard for some reason. And this is back in 2010, so it's like, we had projectors and computers and things like this. But it's like, it just kind of comes to show that it's like, universities is not the only way that you could gain and attain knowledge. So we're like in this very beautiful time where it's like, now it's like the free access to information, and just so many different YouTubers putting up educational content on how to be able to code in Python, how to be able to code in Java, all the Udemy classes. Like if you look at my cart, or actually my history, I have well over 20 classes from Udemy. Those are all the classes that I took to pass all my associate level certifications, and what I'm currently taking to be able to take my professional level certification. So, there's just so many ways that you could switch careers. So it's like, if you majored in, English or something like that, but now you want to be able to switch your career into something technical, there really isn't a need to necessarily go back into like to get your master's in something technical to be able to break into this field. But it does require like a lot more effort. It does take a lot more hustle, and ownership of your time and how much you want to be able to put into it.
Yeah, I agree with Christian. I think my Udemy, every time I get so I have the app on my phone, and every time there's a sale, it gives you notification, and like I feel so guilty after making these purchases, because I'm always buying courses, especially like AWS courses, just because our role is so demanding, our role is so is growing. Like there's new technologies coming out all the time, and even at AWS, I'm sure Kristen feels the same way, but we're surrounded by so many smart people, and we're constantly put in situations where we're like, should I know this? Or was I supposed to know this? But like, you don't. And that's okay. And nobody expects you to. It's just gonna come with experience and time. But the only thing that'll get you there or get you to feel more comfortable is being able to constantly develop yourself, and sharpen your saw, as AWS says it. So I put in like a couple of courses and tests in the chat. I think I put in 2 courses. The last to the second link, the Udemy hands-on course, I know we had this question earlier. Brittany asked where, can you tell us some hands-on projects? Sorry, we're going over time, by the way, but about wanting to like work on some hands-on projects. That course is probably going to be really beneficial, because he goes through several use cases using different technologies. And if you're just able to familiarize yourself with a person on video and then do the blogs, maybe it might be helpful instead of just starting off with the blogs, because you're going to have zero UI experience. But doing this might help you gain more familiarity with the UI. Lastly, there's one more guy I completely forgot and just remembered. He is really, really new. He's a AWS enthusiast, like crazy enthusiast. His content is very pleasing, like visually appealing and visually pleasing. So he uses a lot of graphics and animation. So his courses are really good. So I would recommend his courses as well. However, they are a little pricey for a student, but if you're willing to pay that money, I think you're going to reap a lot of returns, because it's worth it. It's worth the money. Like, even though he charges $40 or $80 per course, the quality It's amazing. And he also has a Slack channel that's very active where he will respond to you, or even like the community will respond to you if you have questions. So that's a really good one. I'm using his course for my professional certification, my solutions architect professional. And I think he's pretty good. I like the community more than anything because you're going to have a lot of questions, and just being able to have someone you can ask and get answer within like minutes, that's really good. So I think it's worth the money, but if not, even Udemy is just as good. So yeah, final thoughts, that's it. I think getting a certification is really going to be beneficial, but also network, like talk to as many people as you can. I know we're here like on Zoom right now where we have very limited one-on-one, but feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn, message us, DM other people at Amazon or any other companies that you see yourself or that you want to see yourself working for. Get to know about the company, get to know how you can, ace the interview, how you can prepare for that role, and, just ask many questions, and you never know how your next opportunity might unlock. So yeah, all the best to all of you.
Yes, great advice. So that wraps up the questions that I have. I'm trying to go back through the chat and see if we missed anything. I think we answered all the questions in real time.
I think I know there was one where it's like they want to know a little bit more about TechU.
TechU. Okay, yeah.
So thank you for your patience. So I did provide a link for the job postings for TechU. So pretty much TechU was a program that was created to be able to. So let me kind of rewind a little bit. Right now there's pretty much a gap in terms of the amount of talent that's available for being able to meet these cloud computing jobs. So much that like Amazon is pretty much doing something about it by doing a TechU program. And so what they do, it's like that they pretty much get a cohort of TechU residents that come into this role, and pretty much you're a full-time, full Amazon employee with the trajectory that it's like once you finish your residency, then you're gonna almost like a doctor, then you're gonna get like a real job as a solutions architect. And within this role, it's like they're really investing heavily on early career talent. So it's like people either directly straight out of college, career switchers, because they feel that just so many people that are switching careers just have so much to bring to the table in terms of their experience and diversity. And yeah, it's just like, it's been like an awesome experience just being able to be in this TechU program. The best way I could almost describe it, it's like, it's pretty much being paid to be a full-time student, to be able to absorb as much knowledge as you possibly can. But still, of course, within certain parameters and expectations that you're going to be able to attain certain certifications and everything like that. And pretty much they're also just onboarding you into the very rigorous Amazon culture, like everything from like the culture of like how Amazonians write, the culture of how we work with customers, and different things like this. Because even just coming into this role, it's been like drinking water from a fire hose, but it's been an amazing experience.
All right. Any final questions in the chat? I think we answered them all. Someone had asked me a direct question about they're graduating soon and what would be the next best step. And I think we've more than covered some things that you can do to help you get on the right path to landing a job in cloud.